Hi there, I'm Dani Henderson. Welcome back to my Disclosure channel. My beautiful guest today is the one and only, globally loved and known Beverli Rhodes. Before I bring her on fully, let me just tell you, this lady is such a surprise every day. Currently, she's on some really big channels, one being Shaun Attwoods. There's up to 1 million subscribers there. And what she's doing, Beverli Rhodes, is she's landing the spiritual connection, the psychic, the healing, the remote viewing, the space intel, the inner earth intel. She's bringing it. She's bringing Elena Danan. She's bringing JP. She's bringing Tony Rodriguez. She's bringing me on that channel because this lady is a leader. She's been in People magazine, Cosmopolitan. She's the only person also to do and the very first person to bring in the psychic telephone lines back in the day. It was her. It was all her. We'll get more into that in a minute. In our first broadcast titled Little Girl Survives Pedo Ring, sadly, and again, if your kids are in the room, get them out the room. This information is not for children, so please stop the recording and then just move on, put headphones on, protect your children. I mentioned last time that Beverli had a disgusting monster of a dad. He had some filthy, dirty Mason friends, and her dad would sell her knickers, her little girl knickers, to her dirty old stinky, filthy pedo friends. Hopefully they're all dead now. And I don't care about that because no person should lay their hand on a child and curse you if you do. Beverli, God, there's just so much about you. You finally escaped the pedo dad and the other useless family members. And you were originally in England, went to South Africa with the family, and ended up in South Africa living on your own. Let's pick it up from there. Let's just bring information from there, my love. Where do you feel we should go?
I think we should go to the changes that happened with me, particularly because I realized that there was the unseen world, because a lot of them were, I had these beings of light, immense light, immense peace and love, and they were always coming before me and trying to filter things and trying to make a little group around me so that I wasn't feeling all the awful stuff that I was obviously going through at the time. And I think the last straw for me was when there was a very big argument in the bedroom, and the person that claimed to be the person to bring me up, she decided that she was going to give me a hiding with a broom. And I don't know what happened to me. I just decided I actually had enough, and I'm gonna just leave. I'm just gonna get out of there and leave and just run away. And that particular time, she came flying into the room with this broom and was just wanting to take a swipe at me. And I just got this amazing heat. And I just thought, no, I'm not going to take another smacking from you. I just decided no more, no more. And almost like stripped. I put my hands out and I grabbed the broom handle and I grabbed it away from her. and I said to her, if you start hitting me again, I will kill you. How dare you talk to me like that? And it started in a full-blown argument. And she started lunging at me again. And I just said to her, I really don't have to take any of this anymore from you. I really don't. And I pushed her and she went against the door and she said, that's it. Wait till he comes home. I'm going to tell him all the usual. And I said, you know what? Tell him what you like. Tell him what you like. And I went to my drawer. And I had a bag, small bag of money hidden underneath of the drawer. Grabbed the money, put it in my bra, and grabbed some clothes, stuffed them in a bag, in a plastic bag actually, in a bag. And I said, that's it, I'm going. And she tried to stop me, and I don't know where I got the strength from. I just pushed her out of the way, and I said, you get out of my way. That's the last time. It's the last time you are ever going to treat me like this. And I said, nothing out there can be as bad as what it is in here. Nothing. And I said, that's it. And I bolted. I went out of the house, and that was the end of me.
Amazing.
I had enough.
Yeah.
And that was like the tipping point. You know, when you just had enough, and that was enough, no more.
Did your mum and the monster come after you?
They didn't come after me. They left it. I think he must have gone back to the house. I don't know what he did. I can't remember. But I then managed to get away. I caught the train to the city and said, right, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get on with things. And I then managed to find a place, thankfully. There was a lovely, lovely, really old lady, this very old lady. And she had a flat, and she had a spare room. And she said, friends and people had said, there's an old lady, she's got a flat, she can hire out the room for you. And I think it was the princely sum of about something stupid like 80 rand or something. It was like really small smack, something like 4 quid or something, like really small money. And I remember thinking, oh my goodness me, how am I going to get this money? How am I going to be able to, pay to stay there? Anyway, I thought, you know what, I'll figure it out. And so I went there, saw her, lovely old lady, beautiful old apartment, and big old, those really old rambling like apartments, the big old rooms and that. And the room was fully furnished, had everything in it, had a lovely single bed, was really cutesy. And she said, and Friday night I make dinner, and Friday night you will have dinner with me. I will throw in a dinner. So I thought, oh, good. At least I get one meal a week. So that was very important. And eventually I said, well, I better let them know that I'm not lying in a ditch somewhere. And I better let them know that, but I'm not going to tell them where I am, but I'm going to let them know that actually, I'm still alive. And secondly, I found myself a place. It's going to cost me 4 quid a month. And I will go and find a job, and I will work, and I will find a way to support myself, and I'm not coming back. End of.
Wow. Thank goodness for those single rooms that old ladies rent out. Years ago, when I was a nursery nurse in London, I found such a place, and it was owned by this lady, this Irish lady, Mrs. McMullen, who was desperate to be a graceful lady in England, but she didn't pull it off because the first day I caught her talking to a cupboard in the kitchen, and then she proceeded to walk into the fridge 3 different times and say, "Oh, feck it, feck it." So not only was it's a mad alcoholic, but I stayed there a while. I lock my door every night, but anyway, thank goodness for those single rooms. And well, bless your heart. So that was kind of the start of your first independence ever. We'll step back a bit to your beloved physical friend, physical ET beloved Da'a, who, when you were a little girl, you escaped out of the back garden gate up.
Yes, I did.
And you were picked up in a craft by this beautiful being. Can you describe us again in brief what he looks like and what his job is in this environment?
He's just he pilots the craft. So the craft, and it's an organic craft, and he pilots it, but it's actually attached. I don't know how it is because I don't know about this thing, but it's attached to him. It's part of his makeup. It's part of his, I don't know, part of his soul. It's all part of him. And he's very, very tall, and he's got a very long face. And he just wears this very plain long robe. That's it. There's nothing else to him, and it's closed because he uses his hands. He's like a scientific officer. It's not anything grand or anything like that. He just happened to be, because where the woods were, I think he had been there because he'd been in the woods, and I think he'd seen this silly little girl, skipping along, going up the hill, up to the copse where the trees were, on my own. And for some reason, he decided, well, I better pick this child up because what's going to happen to this child? And that was it. So yeah, I didn't think anything of it. I was taken up into the craft, had a good look around, wasn't any worried. I think he must have done something to the craft because I don't think people could see it. I saw it, but I don't think other people could see it. So he must have done something to, I don't know, to put a cloaking device or stop it from shining or doing whatever it is. But I know he was definitely doing samples because he had samples of things. He had samples of trees. He had samples of little bud things. He had samples of all sorts of things, and they were on this table, and they were busy sorting it and looking at it and trying to work out. And I thought, oh, okay. And I'd seen gardening in action. Obviously, I'd seen gardening in action. And I just thought, oh, he's gardening. Didn't think anything of it.
That's incredible, incredible. And he took you on the craft and you have your physical connection with him. And we made the point last time we spoke that you don't, in fact, channel, omnipresent beings. You physically met this man and he telepaths to you. You have telepathic communication. And it's our duty, as you know, to help people understand the difference between what channeling is. What channeling is, what telepathy is, which is a lot of the way that most of our benevolent ETs speak to us through telepathy.
Yeah.
And so it's really, again, to precise that point for people on their journey, because there are so many that are, giving information and they're not really sure where they're getting it from. Is it fantasy, some of it? And it's very difficult. And I'm very strict on the physical, as you know, because sometimes that's how we come in and that's how I've come in. And that's also largely how you've come in to show that side so people can help themselves. Okay, so let's jump back to South Africa. You're in this room. You've decided you're not going to take any more physical or sexual abuse. You're not going to let your father sell you anymore to men, or for horrible, horrific, harmful uses. So how did you get yourself together? Like as a young girl, a teenager? What were you, 17?
No, less than that.
Okay.
No, I bolted it just after 15.
Right, that's so young, so young. So how did you mentally strengthen and mentally prepare for this life in South Africa? And by the way, guys, when Beverli says SA, she means South Africa in general, because obviously SA.
I should
That's all right.
I should say South Africa. I get just so used to using that word we all call SA South Africa. Yeah, so I should say it properly, shouldn't I? I also want to say that, with the meeting with Da'ar on the craft, he was saying to me about, do you know what a post box is? And I said, yes, it's where the post goes. And that that was quite interesting, because I didn't realize at the time when I was little that a post box was the term that he was always going to use throughout my whole life, that it became a post box technique. And the post box technique was, he would then use the back of my head as a post box, and he would put into the back of my head, because that's how he explained it to me. He would put words as a post into the back of my head. And he said, whenever I need to tell you something, I will just put a letter of a post in the back of your head as a post box. And I've never forgotten that, because that's the whole communication, is the post box technique. Is he will just drop it in, and that's it, it'll be there, and I will just get an answer on something, and I can just think it, and then he'll just give me the answer and say, right, there you go, that's what it is, this is the situation. Or if I'm seeing something, or I want to see something, then the post box will be there, and it'll just come in, and it'll show me a picture, or it'll be an image, or it'll be a whole bunch of writing, or it'll be something. So,
do you have any form of technology or an implant, for example, that also helps you to communicate?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I might do. I don't know. I have never really bothered with having a look or anything like that. I don't think so. I think it's always just been the post box. I haven't seen anything funny anywhere in my body or anything like that. So no, I don't think so. I can't be 100% sure. Exactly. My answer would be no.
Yeah, exactly. We're not always 100% sure. It can be, because it's holographic. I mean, for example, if you did have someone that did have an implant at a high level, the chances of you finding it are pretty much never, because we don't have that technology to locate, and it's not the holographic working in multi dimensions, obviously. And so there are people that have them that don't know they have them, and they come later in life sometimes, or they get to download information, or they get to have connection, or or there's many different levels.
This is it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so, in all honesty. I don't think so. I think it's only strange thing happened once. It was much later. I had to have quite a big operation, and when they cut me down this side, what was very weird, there was like this round disc that was on the side of my right boob, and they'd cut all the way down the side and all the way down round, and then under where the scar tissue is and where everything was stitched, there was this big round white circle. And I did say to the doctor, I said, any idea what this funny white circle is? And he said no, he thinks it was when they were taking out what they needed to take out. They think it's as they were taking the scalpel and moving it around, it's because it was very much the shape of the thing that they took out in the tumor, that very big round one. And he thinks that that's what it was, possibly. And that's the only thing that's ever been like really odd. And I looked at it and I thought, oh, what on earth is that? And that's the doctor's explanation. So I thought, okay, doctor knows what he's doing. That's fine. That's probably what it is. And over time, about 5-10 years after having the operations done, eventually it disappeared. And only what was left of the scar all the way up there and the stitch marks and that's all that's left now. It hasn't got that big round circle. That's the only thing I could think of that was a bit strange.
That's fascinating. So when you were in this room and finding yourself, what were some of the ways that you found work, and what other spiritual experiences are you having at this time?
Well, at that time already, I'd started to have these conversations on and off with Da'ar, and I'd also found my own spirit guide at the time, and his name was Traiilblazer, and he must have been in his life, he must have been a Swami, or he must have done something, because he was very quiet, very spiritual, soft-spoken chap, and he used to do a lot of meditating, and he used to be able to sort of sit quietly for ages, and he used to say to me, come and sit quietly with me and let's do this meditation. So he was teaching me how to meditate as well. Very, very, very serene, very peaceful, always felt very peaceful when he was in the room. And I only had a little room with a single bed. So I used to sit on my single bed, and he used to sit, and we used to do this whole, and that was fine. So I started with that. And then I did have some money. The money I had in my little pouch that I saved, I had enough to keep me going for about 2 or 3 months. So there must have been at least 100 quid. And in those days, 100 quid, we're going back like over 40 years, actually more than 40 years. That was a lot of money in those days. So I had enough to pay Mrs. F all her money in advance, 3 months. I said, right, I'm going to give you your 3 months money. There's your 3 months money for my room and my board. And then you'd give her like a little bit of money for vegetables and for food and for water and all that. So I made sure I paid all of that. And then I thought, right, how much have I got left? I was having a look at what I got left. I thought, right, I'm going to go buy a newspaper. And I'm going to go look in the newspaper to see what jobs are going and see what I can do. And that's what I did. I went and had a look, and there was an advert for a receptionist subscription type manager. That was 2 jobs. There was one as a receptionist, and then the other one was a subs manager. And I thought, right, I'm going to phone them and see if I can come for the interview. So I asked Mrs. F if I can use her phone. And she said, yes, but you need to put pennies. You need to put pennies in so that you can pay for it. It went into a little box, put the money in. And I phoned them and I explained about myself and my age and everything and, what I'd done, etc. And I literally just finished school. And they said, yeah, come and see us. And we're in Santon, and come and see us. And, you meet the editor and you meet the subscriptions manager. And just come and have a chat, and we'll have a look and see, and you can do some typing and see how you do. So I went, and it was Habitat magazine. And I went to the Habitat magazine up on the floor where they were in Santon and met with the editor. And he was very, his name was Colin at the time. And he was quite, usual things, how fast do you type? What can you do? All the usual boring stuff that you do in a business job. And he said, do you think you would be able to also help the subscriptions manager type out all of the new subscriptions and keep them in a file and then roll them off the machine? In those days, they used to roll them off the machine and it used to print onto an envelope. The magazine would go into it and you'd fill the magazine and you'd send it out. Now, those funny little things that you used to have to type onto this little card that rolled it off, that was what they wanted someone to do. So it was a case of saying, okay, show me how this works and let me see if I can do it. And so I then sat there with what was in those days. It was an IBM golf ball machine typewriter. It was like, wow, it was hot off the press. It was amazing. The ball used to spin and you used to type it, off it would go and it would go ping and it would do all these amazing. Anyway, you load these things in and you type, or you can then hold it down, type everything, check that it's right on the little screen, then press the button and it would go tick, 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 and it would do the typing. Anyway, I actually managed to get the thing to work, which none of the other people that have been interviewed could do it. So I'd figured out how to do it, what to do, put it in, etc., and printed out a sample and gave it back to the lady that was the subscriptions manager. I said, is that what you want? And she said, oh, yeah. And then she checked. She said, oh, and the address is right and everything's right and you've got it in the middle. And then she put it through the machine and it went onto the envelope, printed it out in the envelope, so that person got a magazine. Job done. Anyway, I had to now go back into reception, sit down and wait. And then they had this big meeting and decided who it was that they would offer the job. Anyway, long story short, they offered it to me. And that was my very first job.
Goodness, I must have felt.
And I started as reception, and subscriptions assistant, subscriptions manager. And what it sounds wonderful and glorious, but actually all it was typing these funny things out because I knew how to work the equipment. That was it. Not fantastic, but it worked, and I was able to feed myself, clothe myself. I was quite happy to be able to get to work with the bus, and absolutely fine. There was no problem at all. I had enough money to live on, and I stayed in the little flat with Mrs. F, and she made sure that I ate, and we actually got along fine. And that was the start of it.
Incredible. What is the road that took you into finally connecting and going literally to inner earth?
I think for me, I had to start processing, which I didn't really want to do. I had to start processing all the things that had happened because, I left in such an awful way. And I must admit, for a long time, I didn't like them at all. I didn't like any of them. And I had to say to myself, well, if anything happens, would I be worried? Would I be upset? And I went inside myself, thought, well, no, not actually. I don't really want to see them again. Not really. And that part of my inner self said, no. But I had to start looking at what had been going on. Why did this happen? What part did I play in it at all? And I had to start then making and coming to terms with everything that had been happening. And that was part of my inner self, my inner road and inner journey, which took years, actually, absolute years.
On our broadcast last night with JP and Elena Danan, you shared that you'd been physically with the AMP people and they made note to you that JP, our insider army friend, who's reported going to the inner earth with the American military, escapades, and he's reported that on Dr. Michael Sala's Exopolitics channel. And so I want to know that, like, how did you physically get to go? Where did you go? How did you do it? And what do they look like to you?
Well, it was quite a funny thing, actually, because I was sitting in my lounge, and I'd finished a discussion with Da'ar, where it had been coming in and out because I was busy writing my next book. And I had then thought, this is, the transmission had finished and that was it. And I was just writing up all my notes because I handwrite everything. I don't type anything. It's all old school, I'm afraid. So I handwrite everything. And I was finishing the handwriting stuff, and I became aware of something standing to the side by the door. And it didn't look like any of the guides. It didn't look like Da'ar, and it didn't look like somebody who'd passed across who wanted to leave a message or, impress upon me to say, you're going to be seeing so-and-so this week. Could you make sure that person is my daughter or my son or whatever, which happens often. Please, could you, give this message? Wasn't anybody. And then I said to it, I said, come, don't be scared. Come into the light. Let me see you. And I didn't know whether it was a boy or a girl. And it then came to the side. And I looked and I remember thinking, that looks like a very big ant. That's what it was. It was just a very big ant, like a soldier ant. And I thought, good gracious me. And I said, do you want to talk to me? Is there something, do you need help? Because I don't understand. And this thing was just standing there, and he was staring, and he was sort of going like this with his little hand. And I thought, okay. So I said, I don't quite know how I'm going to go with you, but if you want me to go with you, that's fine. I can go with you, but let me go back upstairs and lie down and get ready, and then I'll come with you. Anyway, that was fine. Went back up the stairs, lay down, and that was it. And that was gone. And we ended up in this bottom area where there was this very lovely, it's like a flat piece, little tiny places on the side, but it was like I don't know, it's like not a lake. I can't say it was a lake. It was some sort of liquidy stuff. And then there were these like lights, which I can only call lights, but I don't know what they were made out of. And he was walking along towards another area, and there was these other people. There were humans, but I'd said to him mentally, there's other humans here. Where did they come from? And this is all happening without talking. I wasn't talking, and it wasn't talking. And again, the postbox effect, it was coming in the back, and he was saying, these are human people from the surface that were either sleeping rough or had been just abandoned or had been hurt, and we have brought them down here, and they're safe now. So I said, oh, okay, that's very nice. And then carried on walking towards an area where there was, I think there must have been, it looked like some sort of organic vegetable or something like that. There was that. And then there were these little like dwellings on the side with people, well, not people, they were not human. They were these ant people, and they were on the side, and that was it. And then after that, I can't remember exactly what happened. He was talking about walking further down to meet some people. Then I don't remember much after that. And then I remember having to say, him saying, we've got to go up the stairs. And I said, what stairs? What do we need to do? And I really realized it was a he. Eventually realized it was a he. And he said, we've got to go back up the stairs. And I said to him, I'm not really very good with stairs. And I'm not very good with stairs. And he said, no, don't worry. We'll get up the stairs. And there were loads and loads of stairs. And I stayed right next to this wall. And there were these stairs. And I was holding on to the side because I really am not good with stairs. And I was holding on to the side, and we carried on going up the stairs until we eventually came out, pushed out. And then we were in some sort of either a forest or some sort of a place where it was quite wild. And he said, we need to take you back. And that was it. So during that time, I was saying, you know, these human folks, I said, is there anybody else that ever comes down here? I knew it was down somewhere because it wasn't dark, because those stone things were giving like a yellowy type of light. Very nice, but not sunlight. Nice, but not sunlight. And he said, oh yes, he said, you know, we get people from your nations. And I said, well, like what nations? And he said, well, the land that we're in, the land that this land belongs to. So I thought, where is that then? So I said, is it called America in our terms? And he said, yes, it's called America. And I thought, okay, fine. And he said, and these people are our friends. I said, oh, that's good. And they come here as well. And he said, yes, they come here as well. And that's how I know it was the JP and his people.
That's so interesting.
Because he said it's from our friends.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And it's so nice as well, because it's so hard to believe when people tell stories like this. They share their experiences, and sometimes you're like, I had someone write to me. She says, I'm talking to the Lyran Council and I'm guiding them. And I'm thinking, no, you wouldn't be guiding them, my love, in this time. We're the ones that need help. You know, it's very difficult, you know, because of the way that the spiritual revolution has been hijacked, you know, and we're do this and that, and you know, we're this and that, and you know, there's no kind of groundedness to it. When the ant being came into your house physically, did you, and you said you went upstairs and you laid down, did you go on a craft with him, or did you go on an internal journey where you transported there but left your physical body on the bed? Like, how did that work?
I think from what I can remember, it was because there was something outside the window, and I could see this like big ball of greeny, yellowy, very iridescent outside the window. Somehow I got from there to the green bit, and then just jumped to being underneath the ground. So how exactly I got there, I'm not exactly sure, but that was kind of it. It was, he came up to the bedroom and stood there, and then the thing was outside the window. I lay down where I normally lay down, and then ended up in the green thing, iridescent thing, and then ended up under the ground. But I mean, it's not, my stuff is not anything major. It's not like a major, I didn't go there to, you know, see anything fantastical. I wasn't being asked to do anything or being shown anything major. It was basically just an experience. I'm not quite sure why he originally appeared in the lounge. I still don't know to this day, really. But I never saw anything, you know, amazing where I could come back and say, well, I'd seen this and I'd seen that. I have no idea, but I do remember certain things. And I think that was key, is about the fact that there is a civilization underneath the ground, and they do live there, and they are peaceful, and they do save poor folks that are sleeping rough, you know, in the woods or in wherever they are. And that these tunnels, because I did say this is a very long walk, you know, because I'm not great on the pins. And I said, this is quite a long walk. How far have we got to go? Because I'm not great at walking. And he said, no, these tunnels, what you're seeing is a tunnel. I said, this whole thing is a tunnel. All of this is a tunnel. And he said, yeah, this is, we made this. This is a tunnel. Okay, that's impressive. Lots of digging. And he just carried on walking. I thought, you know, what is this for? Why is he showing me this? Because I didn't quite understand that. And he said, no, we've got their tunnels all over America, all over, everywhere, underneath. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. And then I realized later, after we came out and I'd come back, and I realized that there was something that was changing underneath the ground, and that I think that they were getting ready to pack or to move or to change or to go, but I wasn't sure about that. And maybe all he wanted to do was to show somebody different, that they were moving and they were changing, because they were collecting food. They were collecting lots of food. And I said, you know, what is this? And he said, this is different food types for the different peoples that are here. I said, oh, that's fine. It wasn't like, I don't see what the meaning was. Even to this day, I don't really know what the meaning was. It might have been that it was sort of the last throes of them deciding to leave or change or do something. So I'm not quite sure what it was, but it was a very interesting experience.
Well, sometimes people like you are here to witness, and to keep that in experience to then improve on others, prove for self, back someone else's experience up. And as you know, now you've met JP, that his experiences are very similar. And it's so difficult for people to think, come on, you're in the American military, and the American military took you, JP, and other soldiers into inner earth in different openings. There's one in Florida near Point de Leon, and different places. And he's like, yeah, and you're that one of the only other people I've ever heard. I've had other people come and tell me their experiences of inner earth, and I haven't believed them. They didn't have enough physical proof or evidence, or their story could have just been matched with someone else's they read from years ago. It's very, very difficult, you know. It's really difficult, you know. And I've done interviews with people, and then I've decided that, you know, I don't feel good about putting this information out. I don't feel like it's right, or something's happened and there might be an attachment, or and I might just delete them because I feel like I have a duty, like you, like if we put information out,
Mm.
we have a duty, because there are so many very vulnerable people, you know, very vulnerable, and we have a responsibility to be as accurate and truthful as we
Of
can.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're, you know, obviously I've heard elements of your experience before, which is why we're
Mm.
talking about it now. And it just, you know, is so good, especially the kind of iridescent light, the way the kind of plants have a fluorescence that light up. And can you remember,
Mm.
like, what were the smells like? And were there like children, ant children there? And, you know, describe a little bit about what they actually all look like.
Yeah, the different sizes, they're not all the same size. You know, the ones that I saw, bearing in mind that I was walking towards the edge of what appeared to be a road or path where these funny sort of iridescent square tubey type glowing things. That seems to be what is used for the light source under the ground, because I didn't see any sun. Really didn't see any sun, but there was apart from the humans that were being looked after, they were over here, and then there was these other families, and there were other people, not people, the ant type people that were very different. Some of them had like, some of them, and I think they were the female ones, they had like this very shiny, glowy type of, it's not a coat, it's like an exoskeleton. It's like a beetle, like a beetle would be, a beetle type out exterior. They did because when I walked past, one of the parents had taken one of the little ones and put her hand, I use the term roughly, her hand thing on a couple of the children to hold them, because they were looking, and I don't think they were scared, but they were like, oh, okay, this is a different one. But they never said anything, and they never did anything, and they just carried on with what they were doing. They were harvesting something. They were taking things and packing things and moving food. That's what they were doing. But they were definitely in these sort of funny little houses, which were sort of, looks like they were hollowed out into the wall, or into, I don't know if it's the underground. Well, it must be the earth, is what I could see. But they had the sides of it had been like polished, if that's the right word, and that's where they were. And the humans were in their own piece, but they were fine. They were really they were healthy. They were quite pale because obviously no sun, but they weren't skinny. They were having food. They were being looked after, and they had learned, I think, how to communicate without speaking with the ant people.
Right.
And it was very peaceful, very lovely. You know, there was no problems. Everybody just got on and did their job, and that was it. They were very respectful. I was very respectful, because I thought, I don't know what these are. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing here, or why I'm being shown this. No idea. And it, you know, it wasn't sort of a big thing. It was just, come and see our home.
Mm.
We're going to show you our home, and it's light and it's peaceful and it's lovely, and we welcome you. And I thought, oh, okay, that's fine. You came into my home. I suppose you're going to show me your home now. And that was it.
Yeah.
So not a huge deal, nothing major, just having a look, being shown around the home, and then I went home.
It's fascinating. And also, you know, when you share about some of the humans that you saw down there, again, that was something else that JP reported on, that there are people that are throwaways or that found an
Oh,
entrance and didn't want to leave,
oh, okay.
them kindly on, and they would never betray the opening. Plus, they can change it. They're multidimensional. They have abilities that are beyond our understanding
Mm,
at this point. And it sounds like you were there at similar times to JP because there was indeed great movement, and the Ant King moved on. Some could say he passed away, but
mm-hmm.
he really moved on to another dimension. It sounds like we had the military witness, JP, and you as a physical human witness, and now you guys have met and coming together with your
Strange, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah. I never
nothing.
got to see the king. I never got in to see anything sort of untoward. I never saw any amazing beings or anything like that, apart from the little ant people. That's all I saw. I did see a lot of very wild and woolly looking gentlemen with very long beards and very long hair that had been plaited, and some that were, but very long beards, and they'd had these sort of things put into their beard. I'm guessing because they'd been under the ground for so long and it had just grown. But there wasn't, it was just very peaceful, very nice. I didn't have any issues, and I didn't ask many questions because I was so busy looking.
Mhm.
I was really looking at everything and wanted to see, well, what is that? Or what is this? And I knew there was some sort of food stuff, but I couldn't recognize it. And secondly, I knew they were harvesting or taking something to have a food source of some sort. Don't know what it was. So I don't think I was there that long because I know I woke up back in the bed, and it was pretty late, and probably way past 2-3 o'clock in the morning. So, and the Orbi thing that oscillates and looks like there's something inside it, and it was not a very nice green. It was a lime green, and it was really one of those lime greens that you look and think, "Ooh, that's a bit green." One of those Kermit type of things where
Yeah,
it's really green, but it wasn't there anymore, it was gone.
right.
And I quickly, because I've got a sketch pad next to my bed for obvious reasons. And I thought, I am going to quickly, draw it on the sketch pad and then write down. I saw some funny writing. I remember that because I remember writing that on the side of the pad. And I sketched it like really quickly out of pencil and other things. And that's the one thing I did do, is there was this being had like a funny bit here in the middle of his head. He had like I don't know what it was, like a jewel, or he had, I don't know what it was, with something was glistering. It was a glistening thing here. So I remember putting that in as best I can, and his little face. And this was split here. Very, very strange. Very sort of pointy with this bit. And I remember sort of trying to draw that. So I can send you, I'll take a picture of it and I'll send it to you so you can see what it looks like. It's a very, very, very rough sketch of him. It's nothing professional, because it's just for my own personal use, really. But yeah, and I remember him. He was really lovely. I don't think he was very old. I think he was maybe our time, probably 20, maybe 25 years, because he was still very interested in what the humans were doing. And he appeared, and I think the way he appeared was, I think she can see me. I think she can see me. And then I could see him. And when I told him to step into the light, it's like, oh my God, she can see me.
Fantastic.
So it's not an amazing, fantastical story, but that's pretty much it.
Oh, I think it's pretty fantastical. And again, a bearing of witnessing to, a civilization that definitely do have existed. And for people to also, learn more about inner Earth, what it is, and who else is there. Um, Several times when I've seen you interviewed, you have often alluded to being in a cage or children in cages in those
Mm.
situations. Would you be comfortable sharing what that means? Why were you around this environment? Like, what happened?
the cage fights and the choosing of the child is part of some of the rights. And it's a strange one, because depending which cages you get put into and how you get chosen really will depend your fate.
But from where? How on earth did you even get in a situation like this?
Because he sold me to that. That's why,
This is
yeah,
oh,
he decided, like others that he was taking and working with and removing, and he was very involved with all of the fixers, all of the finders, all of those that knew where to find children, where to collect children from, of all different types, all different races, all different sizes, all different colors. There was a particular hierarchy and a particular level of costs for particular types of children. And there were those that were extremely expensive because they had the red hair, they had the hazel or gray eyes. The hazel eyes was top. That's like a Rolls Royce. Red hair, O negative, AB negative, those, and also the hazel eyes. Those three, and female, even better, because then they can keep you in a cage and reproduce with you every year. So those three things are like highly sought after, because he always had on his book, he always had how much the adrenochrome was going for 150 mils, or for whatever it was, the vial was that he was sending. He always knew at any given time, he always knew how much he could get for adrenochrome. Always.
Oh God. And I know that's one of those words that, robots pick up on boob tube.
Oh, sorry.
All right, we'll just call it the A fluid. So you were witness to stolen children who potentially had been bred underground by breeders, by women who'd been taken, and unfortunately this was something very prevalent. How prevalent do you think it is today, as everything is being taken down, as the ETs that were the overlords, if you will, the reptilians and the greys are gone, as systems are being removed, people are being exposed? How prevalent do you think it is today?
Well, I think it is still quite prevalent, because the fluid is still, at the moment, when I checked beginning of this week, it's about 1,150 pounds for 100 milligrams. So, it's quite expensive. And the fact that there is still trading taking place, because it is trading is taking place, people are buying and selling and providing still to this day. There is still definitely a market. And people that were in his little black book, there's a lot of them that were quite young in those days, when I was taken out of it and I basically ran away. That there's still people that were quite young then. They were sort of 20-year-olds that were sort of becoming part and parcel of the whole cycle yet again.
As in, they would have used in a certain way for years, and then they would actually higher up in the ranks and then become that was done to them. Is that what you're saying?
The next leaders, and they would be the next leaders, and they would know which families to, that are breeders, because there are breeders, and there are breeders openly out there that will allow children to be born of youngsters at home, and they have home births, and they keep the child costed at home, and the child is pregnant. Nobody even knows that the child is pregnant, and when they get to the point where it's nearly term, they've got individuals that they send all over the place to be able to act as a midwife and birth these babies, which are taken away immediately. And we're working on a case at the moment, actually, where there's a lady that gave birth in 2006, around about there, and she was 12, and the child was taken away immediately. And they were a satanic family, and the child was removed straight away. She saw that it was a little girl, and because they had put they'd put chloroform on a towel and put that over her face when she was going through labor and the final stages of labor, she then basically fell down and went to sleep. And when she woke up, she said, "Where's my daughter?" And the woman that had delivered the baby said, "No, she's gone. You will never see her. She's gone. Get on with your life. We'll go back to school next year, so that when you're 13, you can go straight back to school." The beginning of the year, and it was December, so she had enough time to get herself to a point where, at the 6 weeks, what you would normally have after having a baby is 6 weeks checkup. She would have her 6 weeks checkup, and she would go back to school and live her life. And now she's now qualified. She's been capped. She's got a degree. She's now 28 years old, and she is now asked, "Please, can you find my child, my daughter?" So we're doing everything we can as our group to try and find this child for her. And this is not common. This is not uncommon for individuals to experience that. This is part and parcel. This is what happens.
So it's so terrifying and sick and unsettling and horrible for anyone to hear or imagine. So as you and your team that you refer to, this is the remote viewing aspect of you, because Beverli Rhodes, again, there are multiple layers of experiences and abilities that you've had, you've seen, you've done, and you currently do. You help the police find children, you help solve murders, you are used in many different ways. You offer your services, should I say more eloquently, many different ways. And how confident do you feel that can you locate the soul of this little girl that's now?
We've done proof of life. We always do with the Remote Viewing Alliance. We always do a proof of life. And I've got 30 different remote viewers at the moment in the Alliance. And we all have our different ways of ensuring proof of life and checking. And we will always do that when we make a start. And we all work then independently, and then we get together on a Friday and we say, right, let's check what you've got, what I've got. We have a target number for that individual, and then we check, has everybody received proof of life? And in that particular case, that particular woman's child is alive. So she's probably about 16 or something around there, maybe ish. So it's quite easy. But remember, we don't have any names. We were not given any names because she didn't know what the child was called. She didn't know what the first name was, what the surname was. She couldn't even remember, because she was only 12. She couldn't even remember the exact day that she gave birth to this little girl. And the agency we work with which they do, they're very good, they're very thorough. They sent us the report from the gynecologist. The gynecologist then checked her to confirm that she has had a baby. And that was positive. She's gone through 3 lie detector tests, polygraphs. And they sent us all the transcripts of all of the polygraph tests. So that once we had found the target and we'd seen what the target was, and we knew that the little girl was alive, we then read all of the transcripts so that we know that she is telling the truth. The mother is telling the truth. And that's what we needed to know, that she's not, making it up or saying things out of turn, or, trying to get back at someone, or trying to provide a police case against someone for revenge or whatever. It's not any of that, not at all. Everything that was provided was truthful.
So did she get flashback memories? Is that how she even knew to think to question whether she had a child or not? Like, how was her, just memories of the actual birth or memories of the pregnancy?
She had the memories of the pregnancy. She had memories of the birth itself. She also had memories of the R word when she conceived her daughter. She didn't know which one of the two assailants was the father. No idea which one it was because there were two at the same time. And it was one of them, obviously. One of them. Don't know which one. One was her father, the other one was her grandfather. So it was one of them. And it was done in a ritualistic way. And she was able to recall all of that. And then there was other questions that the officers put to her, and she was able to answer most of them. Some things she can't remember, but there's some things that were so heinous and so awful that she was able to recall all of them. But it's still an ongoing case. We haven't been able to find her yet, but we have got a lot of clues, and we've managed to work out. We've got 3 surnames that we think they are, all of us, and we've got 2 first names. And the people, the agency we work with, we've sent that to them, and we said, please, because they've got access to huge databases, and they're going to run a section of those names through the database to see what comes up. 16-year-old girls with those names in the areas and the quadrants that we've said, these are the quadrants we think we know picked up an energy signature for her in those quadrants. Try those quadrants, and then we'll see where that comes back.
Incredible. Let's take a step back to the cage fighting and the children that you witnessed in cages that partly your father had potentially procured with other procurers. It's like cockfighting and dog fighting. It sounds like a similar
choose the child. Yeah. Well, there's 2 things. There was dial a child, which was one of them, and then there was choose a child. But the choose a child is the caged ones. Dial a child is when you phone a fixer and put in your order what it is you want, and then your fixer will go out and find whatever it is you want. And it was actually the person, my particular handler, that tongue-in-cheek said, oh, we have a phone now, so they can just dial a child. And that's what he called it, dial a child.
Evil.
Yeah, so that's how you could. He would then find, his, as a fixer, he would then get his finders to find whatever was on the agenda for that particular fight. He would then make sure that those particular ones were located. And then part of the location, they would then be opportunistic. Can we get to this child? Can we pick the child up? Can we put the child into the back of the van without being seen? Can we entice the child from a park? Can we entice the child from a park? Under the guise of, I've got some puppies at home, and I've got kittens at home, and take a kitten or take a puppy. Would you like to see the rest of the puppies? This sort of thing. Very, very sneaky. And they would then plan all of this and decide, who's going to do what? What is the hierarchy? What is the top echelons? What are they looking for? What do they want? What do they want to see? Because it's a bit of a show beforehand, before the main event starts. And then they would decide, this is what we're going to be doing this time. These are the children we've got. We haven't been able to get all of them, but we've got X amount of boys, X amount of girls. This is what we're going to do with this lot. And this is how we're going to open the show. This is the main event. And this is how we're going to close the show down. And this is where these children were in cages, and they were there available for everybody to see.
And the everybody, what was it, an underground tunnel situation? Was it room?
One was tunnel sometimes. Sometimes there was one that was on a really big farm that the owner, very, very wealthy chap, he was able to create. You didn't even know that it was there because it was where the barn was, but to the side of the barn. And he went down these steps, but he had like this covering over it, and it looked like he would put hay bales and things on it. You wouldn't actually think. He had these 2 big doors that would be closed, padlocked, and then he'd take the tractor and he'd put the tractor. He'd put these big round big hay bales on top of there and then stack them. So unless you knew that that was there, you would just walk past hay bales. It's a working farm. You're not going to think there's something under hay bales that are, you know, covered in plastic. You're just not. And so that was it. That was the one underneath the ground, and that was quite swish because there was like a central area. Then on the side there was, you know, all the caged areas, as if you were basically just animals. All the cages are there, and you've got an open floor. And the reason why you've got an open floor is because you get so scared that you just go to toilet. But they don't want that to be on your person. So they put sawdust at the bottom. And obviously when you have these people coming around to look and decide which ones they want, or which ones they want to bet on, or what they want to see, etc. I mean, you just go toilet because you're so scared. And that just falls on the sawdust. And eventually when it's, you know, too stinky and too horrible, someone will come along with a big broom, sweep the whole lot up, put it into these bags, put some more sawdust down. And that's pretty much it. And you just wait, and if you're one of the ones that are chosen, then you'll be taken out of your cage. You'll be brought to the side of it's not an arena, it's just a central area, center area with everyone watching, and then it'll be your turn. Luckily for me, thankfully, I was never chosen to do stuff, thankfully. But the ones next to me, not so lucky. And she unfortunately didn't survive.
So is the little girl being unalived at the hands of another child to an audience of mostly male adults?
No, that was an animal.
Can you explain?
Well, put it this way: a child is not designed to take a male animal into their body.
So not just fighting, but bestiality as well.
Yeah. And she didn't, you know, she didn't make it, unfortunately, because, you know, it just wasn't possible. You can't fit something that size into something that small. It's not possible. It's absolutely not possible. And that was it. And that was like one of their favorite types of shows, actually, is where it results in an individual becoming unalive.
Did you ever see any of the adults that you recognize, that they're in the public eye, they're in government, yes, you did.
Loads of them. Loads and loads of them.
You want to name them?
I'm not going to name them because I've got a list of 60 that I've left with my solicitor. And if anything should happen to me, it's my only insurance that I've got. And he knows that if anything ever happens to me, there are photographs as well of those individuals, particularly with young boys, very, very, very well-known people. And they are not only going towards, you know, the various properties, but also on boats and other things. And all of those, even ones where they were sitting down to Christmas dinner where the children had absolutely no clothes on. So all of those photographs are with him, and that's my insurance. So it's not very nice. But I've got to have some insurance, which is why I won't name and shame them, because otherwise, if I don't do that, if I start with that, then what have I got to keep myself safe? Nothing.
Yeah, I understand that completely. We're just going to stop for a couple of minutes. I'm just going to put this on pause. If I can find the pause. Hi there. So just a word to everyone watching. We understand that it is not easy to hear Beverli share her childhood and the things that she witnessed. And it's to some people the most unbelievable happening that nobody would ever do that to a child. But people have, and they did, and they still do, unfortunately. And that's why Beverli works as such a powerful advocate also in bringing these things to light. And on this channel, you've seen other survivors of such horrors: Kathy O'Brien, Max Lowen, Rachel Vaughan, Gloria Masters, and others. And it is very difficult to hear any adult speak, but knowing that they were children when they went through this. And I just honor you, Beverli, for being so brave and putting things in place. If something happens to you, then you expose all the names. That can be sometimes the only insurance policy that you have.
It's the only insurance policy I've got. Absolutely. 60 names and all of the information is there, and he absolutely knows, and he's seen all the photos. He was absolutely shocked. And he said, this is ridiculous. This should be mainstream. I said, you can't go mainstream with it because it's going to create the biggest scandal that the UK has ever seen.
But I think we're at the point where we don't care, I mean, line them up, there's one shock after another. I think Jimmy Savile, that monster, we're at the point where nothing is shocking as in who's doing what. Unfortunately, not to be,
it's sad.
but it gets to a point where you're like, oh, really? There's no surprise there. Oh, now that you say it, it's very, very difficult. But
obvious.
to accuse someone of this without evidence is horrendous, because these are the worst crimes against children, the worst possible crimes. We were just talking there offline that your involvement to advocate for an ambassador for the CSA, child services associations, etc., protection of children, that they must have an ambassador who has experienced, that can relate.
Yes.
Can you share a little bit more about that side of the work that you're doing?
Yes, I had a discussion with individuals that are starting to write up part of the United Nations policies and protocols and procedures. Who are the people that are best posed to meet with after an extraction? So in other words, after a child has been extracted and repatriated with the crew that takes them home, who, apart from the child's family, apart from clinicians that will fix the body, who else should be meeting with a survivor? And I have been saying, I think, in my view, what would have helped me at the time is if I had had somebody to speak to that had been through what I'd been through. That would have made a huge, huge difference. Because when you are talking about what has happened to you as a survivor, you do dumb things down. You do try to think about, this person doesn't know what I've gone through. They might be unbelievably upset. They might be traumatized. They might not be able to deal with what I'm telling them. So I'm not going to add all of the information. I'm just going to lessen it. I'm just going to lessen it and see how this person goes. And I'm pretty sure most survivors I've spoken to, that we all do the same thing. We're all very careful and very gingerly say things, and we watch to see, is this person going to be all right? Are they going to cope with what I've got to say to them? And it would be good to have a survivor to survivor discussion so that the survivor knows you don't have to pull any punches. You don't have to not say it. You can say it. You can get cross with it. You can shout it. You can get yourself in a tiz. You can do whatever you need, whatever works, whatever gets you through getting this out. You can do that from a survivor to a survivor point, but you can't do that from a survivor to a parent, a survivor to a clinician, or a survivor to a psychologist or somebody else that is similarly trained. Because we are always hypervigilant and we are always on our guard, and that's something that never changes.
Incredible. And, putting this as a major element in the therapy of survivors is obviously so big. And like you say, you can't say to a parent this happened, because the parent will want to come undone. They'll want to murder.
Of course.
Harm with their bare hands. There's talk about Trump and Elon Musk releasing lists of harmers, adult harmers, a lot of well-known business people, teachers, professors, scientists, etc., music, singers, actors, and this has been, triggering and ticking along now for quite some time, and they're throwing up ridiculous fake drones. They're trying to distract everybody. They're hoping to remove information. Like, good luck with that. They're at a point now where all their sins will be seen and heard and counted.
Exactly.
Without the need for any kind of, religious notion. It's just a fact. This is how things work out. When you harm, that harm will be shown. It will be shown.
Yep.
You mentioned that during your own healing as well, that you had discovered and recovered and have, put in place ways to release your trauma into the Akashic records, or the Akashic records, whatever way you want to describe it. Tell us in brief what the Akashic records are and how you yourself utilize that function that every human has access to.
Well, it's good that you've said every human has access to it, because everybody does. What I did with mine is I had to systematically go through each level and each incident, remember each of the people's, what happened from very young right through to when it stopped. And what I did then is I took each of those memories, each of those feelings, I had to look at them, and I then made peace with them. I also very carefully had to say to myself, you were a child. You did not realize, you did not know, you are not responsible, because you did not go out looking for this. This is something that happened to you. So the guilt that is carried, I then took that guilt away. I forgave myself, because for a long period of time, you do think, oh my word, what did I do? How come did I end up with all that nonsense happening? How on earth did that happen? And you think to yourself, must have done something. Must have. Otherwise, why did it happen to me? And you've got to then release all that guilt. So I did that piece by piece by piece. And it took about 3 or 4 years. All in all, from start to end, it took 10 years to do this. And I took piece by piece by piece, all the energies, all the visuals, all the images, all the names of people, their faces, what happened afterwards, everything that I could see. I then would take that and I would say, this is that memory, and it has no more power over me. And I'm going to take it, release it, forgive myself, but more importantly, forgive the others, because there are most of them on the other side now. Forgive the others, and I will learn other lessons at another point. And then I took that and then put it back to the Akashic records, which is a soul record of everything, all your deeds, everything that's happened to you, everything you've thought, decided, discussed, done, all of your memories, everything that you've ever thought, even down to the last minuscule item. Well, actually, I don't like you because, you've got prettier hair than me, or whatever. That will end up in the Akashic records too. Everything has a soul record, and that's what the record has. And I actively then said, I'm not prepared to carry this monkey on my back anymore. And I started working on it. And after 10 years, I finally got to the last piece of it and was able to bottle it up, push it together, and then release it. And that was it. And finally, after that time, as thin as I was and as not well as I was then able to heal from it. I could start eating properly. I could sleep properly. And I was feeling a lot better. And because it was gone. And when I get the other side, I will have a look at it. And we'll have a look and have a read and say, what did I learn from it? What was the lesson? And I will go through that then.
I know that there are people that say, we've come here to, learn lessons, etc. My thinking is slightly different. I used to say the same thing because I'd heard it so much, it became a truth that actually when I started looking into it, I realized wasn't my own truth. It was just something I'd been schooled and groomed to say, to respond to. Because for me, I don't accept that, you know, anything that happens to a child is due to a lesson, because a little innocent child, I don't believe there, you know, people talk about karma. You know, for me, I don't accept any of that personally. I have a different take on it. I know the Akashic records are real because I went and I was at a school for 4 years, a metaphysical school, and one day I'd never heard of them, and one day we did a meditation. We're sitting there in a lab, and they're like, right, imagine you're going in an elevator and go up, and you're going to be in some kind of a library. And I could not believe the things I saw up there. Plus, there were two names on my book, and I changed my name as a teenager. I'm like, holy shit, I am not making this up. It was wild. And then
Mm.
other things happen since then. So I believe there is a depository of all our memories and, you know, things that we've gone through. And but, you know, I don't believe that you or Kathy O'Brien or Gloria Masters or any of the women, mostly women on my channel that I've interviewed that have gone through the worst horrors I've ever heard in my life, that any one of you came here to accept that as a lesson to learn from it. You know, it's way too much. There might have been elements where you were going to expose things as adults that, you know, people around you did to children or whatever. But, you know, it's just too big. And then with the forgiving thing, again, with that, I find the most important thing, and I've been a long-term therapist, as you know, and a children's nanny, etc., and had my own stuff as a child too, who hasn't? But giving yourself, forgiving you, knowing that you did nothing wrong, letting that go, like Gloria Master says, handing the shame back. To me, that is the strongest forgiveness to, you know, someone who's harmed a child or a person, an adult, doesn't have to be a child. So knowing that you didn't do anything, you didn't ask for it, it wasn't the way you were dressed or you were drunk or you were drugged or they didn't hear you say no. No, it's not acceptable. And so, yes, so forgiving yourself for loving on you, to me, is the strongest tool that someone can use, because we don't all heal the same way. We can't all,
No, that's true.
right? The same healing. Like, let's
Mm.
forgive, you know, let's forgive them that. Let's forgive Daddy-O, you know.
Very hard. It's very, very hard. Let me tell you. That's why it took so long, because I would sort of get to a point and I think, no, I can't do this. I can't forgive these sods. I can't do it. I just can't do it. And then I'd leave it a bit, and then I'd try again, and then I'd bring it all back up again, and then start again, having another look. And then you think, really, 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 do I? And you remember the pain. You think, oh no, I can't. And then you just eventually you weigh yourself down. You think, I have to let this go, because I can't keep on with this, and I can't keep looking at it, and I have to get to a point where I let it go, and I will deal with it some other time and just forgive it, because of whatever it was that they were going through. I needed to go through that at the time, and then let it go and move on. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to move on.
No, it's so incredible to me that, you know, you, Beverli Rhodes, Kathy O'Brien, Rachel Vaughan, Gloria Masters, Jeanette Archer, Max Lowen, you are all so loving. Like, how did you, sorry for getting upset again, how did you find that strength? How did you, you're all healing other people, you're all therapists, you're all speaking, you're all bringing dark to light. How did you in yourselves find that power to be the loving, beautiful women that you are today?
It was in all honesty, it was just self-preservation from my point of view. I needed to be able to continue. I wanted to continue and stay in this world, because my choice was stay in this world and try to heal and try to move past all this awful stuff that you remember, or, you know, take a ticket out of here. That's the only other option I had, is, you know, the shame that goes with it, the shame that, you know, the family had to find out later, my girls had to find out later. And, you know, what is the choice here? You know, stay, work on yourself, forgive, and become a survivor, or say, you know what, I can't forgive them, I won't forgive them, and I'm just going to check out. I just decided, no matter how long it takes, and it took a very long time, no matter how long it takes, I have to do it. And that was the biggest thing, because if I can do it and I can manage it, that once I've lived a little while and I've been fine, maybe I can look at it and say, well, what did I do? How did I do it? You know, what are the tips, the techniques, and the tools in my toolbox that I could then tell somebody, this is what I did. This is what worked for me. Let me talk you through it. Let me help you through it. Let's see what energies come up. Let's see how much better each time it is, that it doesn't keep coming up all the time. And the most important thing there was building some form of technique method so that I could move people from, you know, just being a victim to survivor to thriving. And that's why we've got the tagline on the book, from hate to hope to healing, because really that was the journey.
Hate to hope to healing. And what book are you referring to exactly? Do you have it with you?
That's the Horse Girl. I don't have it with me today, but that is the Horse Girl, you know, basically catalogs everything from the beginning, you know, right through until the current day. And that includes, you know, the 7/7 bombings, which the 7/7 London bombings was the actual event in 2005 that caused all the schisms to open, and where I bottled everything up and locked it away as tight can be, all that then came forward. And that was where the start of it was. And that was where I really seriously needed to heal. And that's why I'm so thankful. I had my guides and I had Da'ar, because none of them had judgment. None of them had judgment. And all they were doing was giving light, giving healing, and they're just allowing me to talk and look at it and look at the images and work my way through it piece by piece so that I could move past it. And they were always saying to me, do this, move yourself past it. It's good for your soul. It's good to get peace. And I used to think, am I ever going to get peace from this? Do I really want to have to go and look at all this all over again? Not really, no. But I needed to, because I needed to get the Beverli back. I needed to get the Beverli person to be re-energized. I needed her to be the one that allowed that energy to come back out, so that I could be the person that I knew that I was before I started remembering everything.
Just incredible. Thank you so much for going. I know it's not easy even to talk about it, but you do it so eloquently and calmly, and it's just so, you know, thank you for being vulnerable too. Moving on to a lighter subject. Now you're on Shaun Attwoods' platform with your own show, The Awaken with Beverli Rhodes, and with Shaun also one-to-one, several times a week it seems at the moment, because his platform's bringing out some of the biggest stories in the media at the moment. And of course, you know, we were on there, Elena, Danan, JP, myself last night. Thanks to you again. Thanks.
And you'll be on more. You'll be on more, because you're down as my specialist, my demon specialist. So you know what? Right. We're going to be doing some demon stuff. So come and bring your demon fighting equipment, and off we go. We're going to be doing some really exciting new things in the new year.
We are, and again, there you go again, helping other people. But I want to make the point, because on this channel, when I've made many broadcasts and I've said to people, stop being so bloody selfish, you buggers with big channels, get Beverli on, get Elena on, get JP on, get Tony Rodriguez on. What are you doing? But some of them are selfish. They haven't got the guts. It's not quite their content. They're watching what everyone else is doing. You know, why are they not using the privilege they have to help humanity if they care about humanity? That you got given the opportunity to create your show on the Shaun Attwood platform, and you invited me on, you know, and that's what I'm saying. That's who you are. You are such a loving, benevolent, beautiful, kind example.
It's my job. It's my job to bring all the light workers together. That's it. That's what I was told I had to do. Is the R and the guides had said, at the right time, we will ensure that the right vehicles will come about where you can mass all the workers of light and people that are influencing light to come together as a huge pillar of light that will go into the cosmos, into the universe. And that's what's happening, is everybody's coming together, and people are coming and they're seeing what we're doing. They're getting hold of me and saying, I don't know what it is, but I really feel that I should be doing something, but I don't know what it is yet, but I know I should do something, and I want to work with the light. What can I do to help? And I'm getting like thousands and thousands of calls and emails with things. And that's what it is. We get together, put the light together, assemble it as one huge plasma core of light, and that's it. And then bye-bye Louie to the other lot, because they won't be able to stand up to that.
That's so true. And again, that's my role too, is bringing people together, like having bringing them together. And then again, to make the point to you as an example of a good human who has somehow survived the worst atrocities, and using your soul light, your frequency, your different experiences, your metaphysical skills that we all have. Yours are very honed. Yours are very, very honed in certain areas. And you're just this pillar of good. And I want people to look at you and really see that, and if they're looking to match frequency or to mirror as a good example, then there you go. Because, gone are the days of worshipping bloody actors and singers. It's like, sit down, shut up, we're bored. We're so bored.
You should just honor yourself. That's the whole thing. Everybody has this level of light. You just have to activate it. Use your breath to activate and push things forward. Once you start activating yourself and start awakening, that's when the true miracles start happening. And it happens in an instant, in a blink of an eye, because then you really start shining.
Yeah. So in terms of the work that you're doing off screen, when you're seeing people for private sessions, is there still availability for people? I imagine you're booking well into next year at this stage, if you've been doing so much online. So what is your current situation like in terms of taking new clients?
Taking new clients, because I'm going to be spending time with my family. The last clients I take is this week, Saturday, and then that's it. Then we're off for Christmas and New Year, and spending some downtime and just really chilling and trying to sort the kitchen out, because that's another mission, and to basically cooking and eating good vegan food, and just making sure that I look after myself for a while and my family. That's what's very important. And then come the new year, once this whole 16-year cycle of retrograde and planets and Jupiter causing and Mercury causing all sorts of nonsense, once the new cycle comes in from the 1st of January, which is one of my eldest daughter's birthdays, actually on the 1st of January. So she's got a good birthday this year, because that energy is going to be awesome. And she's in her late 40s already. And so moving forward into the new year, planning what it is that we want to get out there, and then seeing what types of individuals need what types of assistance. So it can be anything from, clearing sessions through to spiritual guidance. It can just be connecting with loved ones. It can be connecting with yourself, with your higher self. And it can also be something like deciding if they want to come and join in some of the free training sessions, because they are free with the remote viewing, to have some fun. Everyone has that ability on their extrasensory perception, and just come and join. It's very non-threatening. It's very basic. It's a lot of fun to do. And it's in a controlled environment, which is good. We follow most of the CIA techniques anyway, which is fine. But it's just to start awakening everybody. And that's what we're doing.
I love it. And your academy is called Awaken too. So tell us about how people can get hold of you and the name of your website, so they can just look you up.
It's called the Awakening Academy, and we've got there's a section there at the top where you can do bookings and consultations, and then we've got the Remote Viewing Alliance is also up there under groups, so you can decide to join groups and things like that. And then we're going to be putting some events for next year. We're still busy planning them, but there's an events tab. So we'll have some events tab. We're coming up with something quite cutesy, which is sweet. We're we're going to do either breakfast with Beverli or dinner, some sort of a dinner with Beverli, which will be a lot of fun. Very small group in a restaurant where we can all get to know each other, and I can meet everybody and speak to them about energies and explain about the energies, and do some really fun things to get people to help them to start awakening.
It's so beautiful. You're amazing. You're a joy. And I'm so glad that you and I found each other. I saw you online. I'm like, oh, there she is. I know her. I was the same. I was the same with Nikki Allen. I'm like, oh my God, there they are. There they are. And that's
Yeah, here we go again. Yeah,
exactly.
here we go.
Sometimes
Round three.
we all meet each other again, those of us doing certain things on the planet, but it's not the way everybody meets. And then, and that's okay. Sometimes people find their groups when they come to a conference or a brunch with Beverli or something like
Yeah,
that.
it's going to be fun.
Not everyone's gonna, do, let's say, what you and I do and the different ways that we do it. And I feel for people sometimes because they feel like they're not doing enough, but they have to honor themselves. Maybe they're still on a healing journey and they're just not ready to go gung ho, or maybe they've been tuning into beings that are mimicking and pretending to be of the light, and they are not, and this has happened to me in the very distant past, which is why I now hold my power in angels, demons, and aliens, and discerning those frequencies.
Which is great. That's brilliant. You've become like an expert, which is fabulous.
Yeah, it is. And it's tough work. It's very, very heavy lifting. It is heavy lifting, especially when you're with someone. Like I did a broadcast here a few weeks ago where I told stories of two different men I work with who were fully possessed, fully possessed.
Oh.
It's horrendous. And how to get through that, how to work through that. But anyway, I digress slightly. You're amazing. I love you. I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy to share my beautiful channel with you and the lovely audience that comes here. And now they'll get to know more of you. Leave us with your final words, please.
I think the final words from me for this broadcast is that 2025, embrace the change, be the change, make the difference, be the person that makes the difference. Be the one that in a meeting has the light and the energy. Be the one in your groups and your friendships that sees those that are perhaps acting negatively. Be that person that makes the change. And if everybody did just a little of that and brought light back into all of our lives, in business, in when we're recreationally, no matter what it is we're doing, in our families, the schools, and all of those, if everybody just shared a little bit of light, can you imagine what the difference would be?
That's so beautiful. Thank you, Beverli. And again, just want to honor the fact that you have been a trailblazer and leading in the light. Your first book, I think, was around 1999.
I know, it's ages ago. Yeah, it's a long time ago. Gosh.
Came out. You're a spiritual warrior. You came out then, and so many weren't ready. They weren't evolved enough. They couldn't accept it. The programming was way too heavy. The energy was too heavy. But you are a trailblazer, Beverli Rhodes, aren't you?
Thank you. Well, that book was a difficult one because it was the first picture that we ever did in those days. I was working with the University of Cape Town, and we had some electronic plates, and we were gonna get me to sit on them and take pictures of my aura while I was sitting on these electronic plates. It's so funny. And eventually that's what the guy's name was, Dirk Visser, and he actually managed to do it. And we said, well, let's try this, and it's called Kirlian photography. Let's have a bash at it. So a couple of weeks later, we managed to come out with this picture, and that's actually on the cover of the book. It's like really awful. It's so basic. It's really awful, but it's become a classic now, and it's called Finding Your Cosmic Connection. And it's really old and decrepit, and it's, when you look at it, at the back of the book, the last chapter, I talk about Da'ar and meeting Da'ar and the craft and all these other things, but I talk about it from when later, not the original first meeting. I don't talk about that because the publisher Lynn decided to take it out. And so what we did is we put all these things in, And then said, "Oh my goodness me," the editor, and she said, "I don't know, we're going to have to take a lot of stuff out. I'll leave some bits in," she says, "because I think people are going to think that you're from Cloud Cuckoo Land."
Yeah.
But it still did very well. It was done, it made a huge splash. And I've got these big posters from the Daily Mail Press Club. I don't know if you remember, in those days they used to have the press club, and there were certain books that were chosen internationally, and it went up, and mine was one of them. And it's there with my name, with the book, from the Daily Mail Press Club, and that's what we went and did. So it was before its time, and a lot of people sort of raised their eyebrows, but on the night, I still managed to sell 2,000 books and had to sign 2,000 books at the same time.
Incredible, incredible. So it's Find Your Cosmic Connection,
Connection.
Beverli
Yeah.
Rhodes. That's so
And
amazing.
just laugh at the makeup and laugh at the cover, because it's like really old.
But at my last GISIC conference, Galactic Expression Informers, I had a lady there as one of the vendors, and she had Kirlian photography. So
All right.
yeah, it may be more enhanced now,
It's
but
probably much better. Yeah.
yeah, people just loved having their photos of their auric field, electromagnetic field, taken. So it's very much of interest. And there were so many different elements people could see in in their light frequency, the light spectrum
Yeah.
that they emit. So it's still very, in 2024. So, again, leading the way.
It's still there. It's
Leading the
still
way.
there. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really very antiquated. And, we really fought hard with, with that machine. And I was so worried. I said, "Oh, am I going to get electrocuted?" Ridiculous. And I still did it though. I sat down, thought, "Oh, hold on a minute." My hair was very short in those days. I had very short hair because it's a very hot country and very dark. And I said to the guys, I said, "All right, put the electric on, do what you need to do." I was like, "Oh, am I going to go poof in a puff of smoke?" Anyway, I didn't. And it's quite nice, with all the colors, because the way that it was, got all the different colors. You can see them actually around on the on the cover. So it's, yeah, if anyone's got one, I've got one at home. It's really old and battered. It's one of the original copies, and the first cover that came off the printing press, number one, I've still got that one. That's in a frame.
That's so
That's
great.
the very first cover. So yeah, it's really old. I believe now a vintage copy, because it's in the, what is it called, rare books list. Rare books list. I know, but something that used to be like £4 is now £170.
My goodness. That is
And
amazing.
that was ridiculous.
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's a little, a fun thing, isn't it, for you to kind of look
Yeah.
back. Hopefully we can find
It's a laugh for me. It really is a laugh, because
yeah.
when I look at it, I think, really? And the pages are all yellow and faded, and I'm like, "Oh dear me."
Bless your heart. Bless your heart. Well, brilliant. So much information, so much emotion, a roller coaster, because your life has definitely been absolutely, well, there isn't,
Upside down, inside out.
yeah, around the back and up and back again. I mean,
Exactly.
on and off the
Thank you so
planet.
much for
Yeah,
having me as a guest.
you're
Thank you
welcome.
very much.
Thank you for sharing so much. God bless you. We'll see you
Thank
soon.
you.
And to the audience, thanks for hanging in there with Beverli Rhodes and I. Sending you lots of love, and we'll see
Thank you, Dani.
you, darling.
Bye.